Hi, I'm Johnny Profane. Hang on for episode 7 of Autistic as Fuck Out Loud. Whether you're autistic, you love one, work with some, or just can't figure out if you are one, let's dive into the most universal autistic experience of all. And it's one hiding right in front of your face, even if no one talks about it. This time, joyful talk, some of it adult. But I think you'll find hope here that you may want to share with your kid, your friend, your partner. I call this one Autistic Joy, Orgasmic Learning, and Ecstasy. What the fuck was that? Okay, so I'm in 4th grade, Catholic parochial school. Never said any such thing back then. But it's a precise transcription into adultese of what I felt. I get excited, wave my arms, start bouncing on my butt, up and down on the sofa in front of the coffee table. I'm breathing hard, gasping, I shudder, and I moan. A weird, high, pleasure-pain moan. My head snaps back, my eyes close. You know, like good sex. That first time. A flash of bright white light. My eyes jerk open, but I can't see anything through blinding fog. Slowly the room fades back into focus. That's the day, the exact moment, autisticasfuck.me got addicted to learning. I mean, hardcore, dope sick, sell your dog to get well, learning junkie. 'Cause after 2 hours alone, frustrated, pulling my hair out and staring at the follicles anxious, trying to wrap my grade school brain around binary numbers, it suddenly snapped into place. I've talked before about autistic joy, what I think of as flow, like some isolated autistic characteristics. It's a lot like what many humans experience, amplified, and turned just 5 degrees toward different. Today, let's talk about something similar, the unique joy many autists feel learning, specifically something new. And I don't mean school learning. I mean exploration on your own, teaching yourself. If you've ever known an autistic child or adult, for sure you've witnessed it. A kid jumping up and down, waving his arms, repeating the same phrase over and over, giggling in a library, knowing he must be quiet. But he just found a new book filled with detailed illustrations of Gigantoraptor. And they got the feathers right. He's gonna explode. Junior high was full of names for it. Nerdgasm, spaz out, geeking out, being a dweeb. Hell, everybody's favorite 80s dork movie, Weird Science. A third of the dialogue mocks autistic behavior. Hollywood, always such a keen eye for marketable, offensive stereotypes. But I digress. I gotta finish my story. Please bear in mind, this is my intensely detailed personal experience. And as I go into later, different groups of autistics may experience things way differently. But for now, it was just after my 10th birthday, 1963. I pestered my parents for weeks for one present, a Digicomp 1. It was a real, functioning binary computer. made from plastic, that you cranked, by hand. I had to have one. See, I read Boy's Life magazine religiously. I was a Cub Scout, pretty bad at it, never even made tenderfoot. But after Timmy joined up on the TV show Lassie, well, Boy's Life became my Bible. It's where I first read Ray Bradbury. Anyway, they had a full-page ad on this mechanical computer, and I always found arithmetic boring. It was just stupid memorization. 0 interest always equals 0 effort throughout my life. Don't get me wrong. I tried hard to conquer every task handed me. Always did. I was driven to be a good boy, to please parents and teachers. But I have never been able to fight my nature, no matter how good my intentions. I fight my nature always wins. If it ain't interesting, I can't do it. Born that way, a lot of autists say the same. Anyway, we had just begun Base 8 arithmetic in school. All the rage for a year or two, like all the other 17 incarnations of new math since then. 'Cause programming, the career of the future. And everybody knew modern computers thought in Base 8, which they did for a few years. I was a bright kid, targeted as gifted by test scores. But I could simply not make the switch to Base 8, except through grinding memorization. Sort of like the multiplication tables were for me at first. And I hated them. Mindless. Until I realized one day I could play tricks. Sneak up on answers easier and faster. Say 9 times 7. It's really just 10 times 7. Minus 1 7. So it's not 70. It's really 63. I created dozens of mental tricks over the years for doing squares like 97 times 97 in my head, or estimating my way into precise answers to long division. Lots of tricks. If I could make a game of something, it was fun. Learning from a teacher? Not so much. Honestly, I've never learned well from other humans. I'd rather steal from their example or invent something for myself. But I could not think my way out of the switch from counting 1 to 10 to counting 1 to 8. I could memorize a process, but not understand it for some reason. Total block for weeks. So Digicomp was my Hail Mary pass. I'd get the computer, program it, then polish off my homework without suffering. Get parents and teachers off my back. More time for my paramecia growing from pond scum, or squeezing out maximum altitude from my pump-action water rockets. You know, cool stuff. So here I am, sitting in front of my last hope, my own real computer that I put together on the coffee table. But it actually takes work to understand and program it, even if it did come in a game box. More work than Base 8 was in the first place. Throbbing headache, tight nausea. I start beating my temples with my fist. I can't believe this. I'm way smarter than this. The other kids are getting it, and I'm way smarter than them. I'm alone in the house. I let out this guttural scream, aimed right at the instruction book. It felt personal, like someone was doing this to me on purpose. I'm looking at 4 sets of ones and zeros. 001, 010, 100, and 111. The 1 means 1. Okay, got that. But add 1 plus 1, and you get 10, which really means 2. The 100 means 4. 111 means 7. And somehow, this relates to base 8 and is going to do my homework for me? Then a curious thing. I sneak up on the 10 and remember the old memorization routine of carry the 1. So I take a 1. If I add another 1, it won't fit in the first column, so I carry the 1 into the second column. And the second column 10 is really a 2 on Bizarro Binary World. So 11 would really be the secret identity of 3. Whammo! The light bulb goes off like a firecracker in the top back of my head. Next day, I ate arithmetic class alive. Never had trouble with bases again. Binary, octal, hex. Went on to briefly program basic assembler code on 360s as a summer intern for IBM, which I also taught myself. This was my first overwhelming experience with learning new categories of knowledge. In other words, something I'd never seen before. I've talked with other autists, sometimes similar stories, less intense maybe, but that internal craving for learning something new, pretty much every autist I've ever met so far. And in many ways, as exotic as it may sound, it's what every human experiences, just amplified and twisted about 5 degrees into the weird. The basic idea? You are hardwired for joy. Autistic or not, every good thing you do, eating, sleeping, shitting, making babies, helping an old lady cross the street, solving problems, and learning something that's useful to you, comes with a little shot of joy juice, nature's reward for a job well done. I won't go deep into the neuroscience. Don't got the chops. Plus, old as I am, I've watched every new scientific model for mental processes go through its fad, then fade. So I'll mumble about the interrelationship of neurotransmitters like dopamine and neuroplasticity, the growth and change of adult brain paths. But a few real-world examples, they'll remain in fashion long after some whiz kid co-authors a paper titled, "It's more complicated than that." You know that rush when the right jigsaw puzzle piece jumps out at you? After you search an hour? That time you finally won a contest? Eliminated the last false suspect in Clue? Solved those cool logic problems on the SATs? Hell, for me, any multiple choice test, IQs, the Ways, GEDs, every question, one bingo after another. High on dopamine. Orgasmic. So, maybe I never experienced that moment of learning with such clarity and ecstasy again. But each and every time, there's that faint echo, like chasing the ghosts of your first drug high, or first monster roller coaster ride, falling in love. The excited squeaks, flapping hands, jumping up and down. Ecstasy. Like sitting at the breakfast table, talking about the news, repeatedly interrupting my wife, because each thought that swims by in that state is so intensely interesting, so beautiful. I must share it. I know she wants to hear it. She will be amazed, just like me. And I'm totally oblivious that I'm hogging the conversation. Because these aren't even my thoughts. I don't make them. They just pop up. And I must share the joy of them, like a gift, to her. And then I swing 5 degrees into the bizarre, at least for people not used to, autists. And I am so lucky to have met another human who can put up with me.
Just to love me, I led a rough life.
Look, not every autist experiences this pleasure the same way. I am gradually learning how being autistic with strong but undiagnosed ADHD tendencies differs from other autists without those tendencies. We all share differences from most humans: social interactions, communication style, and then there's the strong focus on personal interests. But in many other areas, we may be way different. This is a rich topic, covering executive functioning, physical awkwardness, many others, and may explain a great deal that confuses non-autistics and autistics alike. Like why so many autists are drawn to science, technology, engineering, and math. STEM. And tend to be concise and literal. At the same time, so many others become poets, artists, musicians, thriving on nuance and ambiguity. I experience thinking as a language of images, sensations, feelings, and metaphors, more than words, sentences, logic, symbols. And I process thoughts almost like manipulating physical objects. Numbers are like blocks that snap together, fitting like Legos. Music, in my mind, vines and intertwines on itself in space. A lot of colors. I remember language more clearly when I handwrite or make notes in book margins. Things I can touch or imagine I can touch are most real to me. To some autistics, some of this will sound familiar. Like, doesn't everybody? To others, it may sound like mental illness. Juggling symbols may be their thing, and maybe they don't trust feelings as much as reason. Artists versus scientists. Director Tim Burton might be autistic. He made Edward Scissorhands and The Nightmare Before Christmas. Physicist Albert Einstein might be too. He made Relativity and shows up on the Brainy Quotes website a lot. It's possible they both might understand when I say, I learn differently than other folks. I need to understand. I need to co-invent. If I don't understand something from the inside, it doesn't exist for me. I learn new categories of knowledge slowly, like my problems with base 8. Learning to read a clock was a struggle. Somehow this round toy that moved when you weren't watching had something to do with time, which I measured by how much fun I was having, not numbers. And then there was switching to digital clocks, still seeing the moving hands in my head. A tough switch in cognitive models for me. A little later, switching from the cute first grader, who was always the first to raise his hand to earn the teacher's pat on the head, to becoming the adult who finally got that nobody likes a know-it-all. That switch kicked my ass for nearly 50 years. Once a new area opens up to me, I seem to associate the skills and concepts with other knowledge more rapidly than most folks, what they call thinking outside the box. So once understood, I may apply skills and related concepts across allied fields quickly. Take music, art, literature. Rhythm, texture, line, shading, repetition, variation, direction, structure. Really, it's all pretty similar. For some, it's the same with math. The joy of learning could be the same for autistic astrophysicists as for autistic guitarists. How we explain the ecstasy to ourselves and others differently. I thought I'd end on an important side point. I write about childhood experiences a lot, with purpose. First, it's a great meeting ground for parents of autistic kids and adult autistics. When we share notes, childhood memories, experiences, and our thoughts on them, you get a peek into that mysterious world your autistic child inhabits. The joys, the wonders, the fears, the challenges, the victories. And I've come to believe childhood was the last time I was happy, at least as a natural autist. So as I struggle to unlearn all the cultural norms that made my young life miserable, because they required behavior I'm simply not capable of. As I fight to throw off all the masks, become comfortable with the darkly secret quirks I once felt forced to hide, I turn again and again to my earliest memories to recover my natural joy that I was hardwired for. Maybe you were, too. A quick shout-out and personal revelation. Thanks to my Twitter pals, Slick Vic and Small Bob, for their generosity of spirit. See, when I have time to compose my thoughts, I can sound pretty smooth. But in real time, I'm nothing like a podcast. Specifically, I'm terribly socially awkward. Say the darndest things. During an in-depth tweet storm about the Catalan language, Slick Vic's native tongue, I said some ignorant things. Great-souled autistics that they are. They taught me a lot. Gently. Thanks, you two. Want to know more? Check out my posts, paintings, poems, music, and politics at www.autisticaf.me. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it on social media. Or better yet, send it directly to a friend. Who cares?